Welcome to The Explainer, everyone. Today we're diving right into a high-stakes look at the totally invisible war against water in our homes. It's a silent, relentless battle, and honestly, most of us don't even realize we're fighting it until it's far too late. We're going to break down the exact anatomy of a home disaster and explore the actual science and strategy behind pulling a property back from the brink of water damage.
Imagine this. You unlock your front door after a long day, and instead of your familiar hallway, bam! You're greeted by a rising, soaking tide of water. So, what actually happens when thousands of gallons of water just invade a home? Well, the immediate emergency isn't just about ruining your favorite rug. A relentless, invisible countdown begins the very second a pipe bursts or a storm hits. Every single tick of the clock means that water is migrating deeper and deeper into the actual bones of your house.
And that brings us to the absolute most critical number in any water crisis: 60. You have a crucial 60-minute emergency response window. Professional restoration teams literally aim to be on site within this exact time frame. Why so fast? Because stopping the progression of water within that first hour is usually the difference between a pretty manageable cleanup job and a catastrophic down-to-the-studs structural rebuild. To really put this into perspective, let's ground the scenario in reality for a second. Take the specific geographic threats facing a community like Bon Air, Virginia. This area is essentially a perfect storm for water intrusion. You've got clay-heavy soils that act like a giant sponge, holding moisture right up against foundations. You've got neighborhoods with aging, mid-century plumbing that's super susceptible to winter freeze-thaw cycles. Combine that with seasonal storms that overwhelm older drainage systems and slope runoff aggressively eroding foundations, and you've got a recipe for disaster.
Now, the science behind how that water actually breaks inside is fascinating. It's all due to a phenomenon called hydrostatic pressure. Because those clay soils hold on to water for so long, they generate this incredibly intense physical force. It's basically trapped groundwater violently pushing against your basement walls. It literally forces water through microscopic cracks and cold joints in the concrete. You aren't just springing a leak here, the earth is actively shoving the water into your home.
Okay, so once the water is in, the entire tactical response is dictated by its scientific classification. Because, let's be real, not all water is created equal. Category 1 water comes from a clean supply line break, like a pipe bursting under your bathroom sink. It demands blazing fast extraction, for sure, but usually needs minimal antimicrobial treatment. Category 3 water, on the other hand, is an absolute nightmare. We're talking highly contaminated sewage or storm floodwater. It is so dangerous that any porous materials it touches, think drywall, carpet, insulation, they just can't be saved. They require complete and total removal.
But here's the kicker. Regardless of whether it's Category 1 or Category 3, you have a secondary, hidden enemy waiting in the wings: mold. And it is fast. 24 to 48 hours is literally all the time it needs. In a humid climate like Virginia's, high indoor humidity mixed with wet conditions creates the perfect breeding ground. If you haven't sucked up that water and started the drying process within 1 to 2 days, microbial spores will actively start colonizing your home.
So, how do the experts actually stop this ticking clock before it's too late? Well, they rely on a strict, scientific intervention called the 3-phase restoration protocol. You can't just mop up a puddle, set up a box fan, and call it a day. Certified professionals use a highly calculated sequence to physically save a property from rotting from the inside out.
This sequence is all about absolute precision and speed. The 3 critical phases are: Phase 1, emergency mitigation; Phase 2, structural drying; and Phase 3, complete restoration. Let's break down exactly what goes down in each of these crucial steps.
So, Phase 1, emergency mitigation, is incredibly intense. It's basically the triage phase. Teams roll up with massive truck-mounted extraction units that can pull standing water out in minutes. They rapidly move furniture to dry zones, rip out totally saturated carpeting, and urgently pull down wet insulation from ceiling cavities. And that last part is absolutely crucial. If that wet insulation is left up there, the sheer weight of the trapped water will literally cause your entire ceiling to collapse. This phase is all about pure immediate damage control.
But hey, you can't fight what you can't see, right? Visual inspections are practically useless for finding water that is wicked up behind baseboards or pooled deep inside a wall cavity. So, using specialized infrared technology, technicians can map the exact migration path of the water inside your walls. Thermal imaging and moisture mapping are basically like having X-ray vision, ensuring that absolutely no hidden saturation is left behind to slowly turn into a mold colony.
Once they know exactly where all the moisture is hiding, they move straight into Phase 2, structural drying. And this isn't guesswork, it's pure math. Specific building materials have to hit exact moisture percentages before they can be safely sealed up behind new drywall.
Wood framing? That has to be brought down to 15% moisture or lower. Concrete must drop below 4.5%. If you rush it and close a wall up before hitting those exact targets, you are basically sealing a time bomb of rot straight into your house.
To actually hit those targets, technicians essentially hijack the indoor climate. They have to strictly maintain indoor humidity below 60% and crank the air temperature above 70 degrees. They deploy these massive commercial dehumidifiers and heavy-duty air movers to force optimal evaporation rates. And they don't just plug them in and walk away. They monitor and fine-tune these levels twice a day, every day, over a 3 to 5 day drying period.
Now, if mold is already present, or if it's one of those nasty Category 3 black water situations, strict containment protocols kick in. Teams string up heavy plastic sheeting and create negative air pressure so spores can't blow into the clean areas of the house. They deploy industrial HEPA air scrubbers that filter out microscopic contaminants down to 0.3 microns. To put that into perspective, a single human hair is about 70 microns thick. That is how meticulously, insanely clean the air needs to be.
So, seeing all this extreme equipment rolled into your living room, the natural question for anyone is, can I just stay in my house? Well, for a minor, single-room issue, maybe. But for extensive damage, temporary displacement is usually the reality. Between the deafening, continuous noise of industrial air movers running 24/7, the crazy amount of construction dust, and serious safety hazards like exposed electrical systems in wet rooms, living in a mitigation zone is honestly neither safe nor practical. And as if being displaced isn't stressful enough, you also have to navigate the insurance maze. Insurance adjusters don't just hand over a check because you say it's wet. They demand rigorous, scientific proof of both the damage and the mitigation efforts. They want daily moisture logs, extensive pre-loss photo evidence, and cold, hard proof that the work meets strict IICRC certification standards. Professional teams usually handle this direct coordination, with itemized estimates, because missing just one tiny detail can easily result in a denied claim right when you need the money the most.
Finally, we cross the finish line into Phase 3, reconstruction. Once the verified drying process is 100% complete and documented, the rebuilding can actually begin. This is where the new drywall, flooring, and cabinetry go in to bring the home back to how it looked before the disaster. But the absolute golden rule here is that no new materials go in until the meters prove the structure is completely, undeniably dry. The whole ordeal ends with a final walkthrough to ensure this invisible war has truly been won.
I want to wrap up with a really powerful quote from our sources today. Every hour of standing water increases restoration costs and extends displacement time. It is a stark reminder of that ticking clock. The anatomy of a home disaster relies entirely on time. It kind of leaves you wondering, if a pipe burst inside your wall right this second, how long would it take you to even notice? And more importantly, are you prepared to act within that golden 60-minute window? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay dry and keep learning.